show you how to run the sideroll sprinkler, and then you'll know when you can do it for me when you're visiting me. So ordinarily, you'll see the sprinklers on, going, but Kathy turned it off earlier, and that depressurizes the pump, and it's easier to do. So it's easier to turn it off early. If you turn it off, you just turn that switch just like that. That turns off the pump. And now we'll go and undo the plumbing on the downhill side of the sprinkler. Aren't these four-wheelers great? So we're down here at where the sideroll was parked last night, and so basically we do what's called a set. We set the irrigation on a section of the field, and then we leave it there for 12 hours. So now we turn off the pump and we're going to move it and put it somewhere else for 12 hours. Now you can disconnect two ways. One way is you can just kind of bounce this and get it out of the way. You got to stand out of the way or you'll get your pants full of water. And so then you got to go turn off the crank. There's just basically a valve under here that turns the water on and off. So I'm going to turn it off. And I usually open it and close it 14 turns if you want to count. 14. That way you just know you closed it and it opens it far enough. Then there's a little kind of like a boot buckle that clamps onto the riser there. And I will release that boot buckle. And you can see how this clamp works. It clamps both to the crank and to the riser. The riser down here, you'll see. And watch out again, there'll be water coming out. See, on the riser there's a little rib here that catches on the clamp, and I'll show you when I connect. Notice there's water coming out of the pipe. Don't try to drag the pipe now because it's full of water and it's heavy. Let it drain first. So what I do when I'm working alone is I let it drain, and while it's draining I go around and move the sideroll. So let's go move the sideroll. Okay, so now we're on the other side of the ditch basically. Notice I parked back there because all this ground is wet from last night's sprinkling. So we don't want to roll on wet ground for no reason. So we just stay back. And also you'll see when we move the sideroll, of course you don't want to park the four-wheeler in front of the sideroll because then you can't move the sideroll. What we're trying to do here is, well, we're going to disconnect this little sprinkler system. I've got a sprinkler over there by Nick that does some extra sprinkling. So basically I'm just going to loosen this hose clamp and take that off. Now you got to remember either to shut that off or be sure and put this back on or it'll spurt water over there. The other thing I wanted to tell you is the first pass of the sideroll after a cutting, you can roll on the field with your four-wheeler. But after that I have little roads that I'll tell you about if you irrigate for me. But you know, since we don't have a crop, we can go ahead and roll on the field. So now we'll go down to the sideroll, which is right over there. That's the sideroll crawler, I should say. And we'll move that 3 revolutions. Let's go. Okay, so this is called the crawler, and this moves the sideroll. A lot of people think that it all moves by itself while you're sprinkling, and so that now you know that you have to move it once each time. So we're disconnected down there and we're disconnected down there, so the sideroll is free to move. So I open the rain protector, and then I pull the throttle up right there. Just pull the throttle up. Then I choke it right there. Then I turn the gas on right here. There's a little valve, and that's just because that way I don't leak gas while it's sprinkling. So give it a good yank. Good power, take the choke off. Turn that off, turn the gas off. That's a little gas valve right there. You can see, you know, sideways to the, crossways to the tube is off. Be sure and cover the engine. And then we can reconnect that auxiliary sprinkler up at the top of the sideroll. I'm putting the hose and I'm going to reconnect that. You wouldn't want to try to do that, or you want to remember to disconnect it, or else it'll get all twisted up when you make your revolution. So it goes on pretty easy, just a little bit of jiggling. Get it seated. Move your, what do you call those?
Hose
clamp. Hose clamp. Yeah, very good. Thank you, Hannah. Tighten it just enough so that it's snug. A screwdriver works great too. And that's going to be snug enough to hold it. We got the valve on, so all we need to do is put the sprinkler in another place and we'll get another spot wet. It gives me just a little added irrigation right here. So I'm just finding a dry spot for the sprinkler. It's, you know, in a good radius, and it's really kind of in line with there. There's one more dry spot, but I got one more set to do. So we're ready to go. We've moved the side roll, and we've repositioned the sprinklers. Now we'll go down around the ditch and reconnect our plumbing, turn the pump on, and that's one set. Okay, so now we're at the bottom of the field again, on the other side of the ditch, and we're going to move this plumbing, I call it, the snake, the pipe, and the hose crank, or the valve crank, to the next riser. This is called a riser right there. And as you'll notice, well, I'll show you when we get there. This is nice and light because it's been drained of water. So you can leave everything connected, or you can take it apart if you want to, but it's light enough to carry it. So what I wanted to show you was this crank handle. You'll notice. See, can you see that mechanism right there?
Yeah.
That is what opens this. So when you get it all connected, you can kind of feel how that'll lock onto that, and I'll show you. So you get it on there tight. You basically seat it. There's a rubber hose. Yeah, that's loose just now. I mean a rubber gasket that kind of holds it. So now it's seated, and this clamp goes on both sides of this rib here. The rib on the crank and the rib on the riser. So you clamp it on both sides, and that holds it down. And then it's just like a shoe buckle. Like that. There's gaskets on each one of these connections, so you need to make sure they stay put. Sometimes they do come loose, but that keeps the water from just flying around. And that goes in until it hooks, and then water pressure keeps it connected. So I grab the snake right about here and rotate the pipe. And then the only thing you need to know is that the snake attaches to the side roll with the connection that swivels. See how that swivels? If it doesn't swivel, then you need to go in for in with your snake. But if you keep everything together, you don't have to figure that out. Now up on top we did 3 revolutions, and basically we want to make sure that our birds, we call these birds, end up above the pipe. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight above the pipe, but just so they are all lined up above the pipe, and that way they'll sprinkle the field well. So the last thing we do now is turn the water on. And as my brother who serves in the Navy taught me, lefty loosey, righty tighty. So lefty loosey, kind of bump it, and that kind of opens it up. And 14, and that gives you just an idea how that it's open enough to sprinkle. And then when you go to close, you'll know how many. You'll know when you do 14 turns, it'll be closed. Now all we do is turn on the pump, make sure the birds are working properly, and then we go have breakfast. Okay, so here we are back at the pump. This is the electrical controls and the pump is back there. And all you have to do is turn that on and press that button. And now we're sending water out to the sprinkler system. We'll ride out and go make sure all the sprinkler heads are working well, and then we'll go have breakfast. Are you shooting? Oh, great. So now we're just waiting for the system to pressure up and making sure all the sprinkler heads work. So this is when you get to enjoy your beautiful life in Colorado. You go, God, am I lucky. There's that one sprinkler that needs attention. But sometimes that guy just kicks in after a while. But all the other sprinklers seem to be working properly. So what about that little hand sprinkler I got? Is that working?
Yeah, well, not very well.
Let's go have a look at it. Cool. So I usually keep a wire on the basket of my four-wheeler, and that's for poking out obstructions in the sprinkler heads, which I'll go do. Okay.
That looks terrible.
That's a fail. And the only thing you can do, if you can't poke out the obstruction, unfortunately, is you have to go and turn the pump off and get your little wrench and remove the orifice and clean it out. I just remembered I've got a valve right here. So if I'm willing to get wet, I can turn the valve off and fix that. A wide brim hat works really well. So I'm going to remove this orifice with my wrench.
God, they keep getting soaked. This thing's going to break by the time we're done.
Well, don't get it wet.
Easier said than done. Trying to get all your little details. Your wrench and stuff. What are you doing?
I'm removing this orifice. Nozzle is what they call it.
You're an orifice.
You're a nozzle.
Ooh.
And see, there's probably junk. Well, there's no junk in there.
Sorry.
There, see, a little piece of rubber.
Aha.
It was blocking it, and I think it's clear now. So I'm going to put the orifice back on. Okay, got the orifice back on, and I'm going to go turn that valve off. So that's going to go on, Anna.
Okay, I'm walking away. Yay! Victory! Action.
So there you go. Now you know how to irrigate your hayfield with the sideroll sprinkler. And you should always have a nice breakfast after you get done. Honey, would you give me a little more coffee?